Thanks, Sarah. While we both do work at St. Paul's, my connection to HCAS, I just mentioned I'm on the board. St. Paul's itself does not have a program for kids on the spectrum. We just both have experience working with families, supporting families with kids on the spectrum. I asked Sarah to join me because of of all her experience working in the county. So I thought she'd be great perspective for me to hear from. All right, so I'm just kind of getting adjusted here, and as we go. Also, if you didn't see, I have my puppy in the lap, so she might jump up, and I apologize. She's just part of the show tonight. All right. Let's get going here. As Lydia mentioned, you can use the chat to ask questions. Sarah will monitor the chat. If they are questions that we can answer on the fly, we will. If there are pointers that you have about things that you're doing, please share, and Sarah will share those as well. As Lydia mentioned, at the end, around 8, we will stop the recording and give you an opportunity to ask more personal questions about your scenario and give you the privacy without the recording. All right. Tonight we're going to talk about supporting the family unit and beyond with executive functioning skills. I will turn it to Sarah. We already introduced ourselves, so we'll skip this.
So our objective tonight is to provide everybody here with different strategies to enhance your executive functioning skills. Not all of these are cut and dry, and a lot of these things are things that you might already be doing, but this is the opportunity for us to share out and share ideas and work with one another through the chat function or at the end when we start talking. And we just want to find healthy ways to manage our executive functioning skills and talk through everything. So just a little brief introduction with executive functioning skills. For those that may be unfamiliar, executive functioning skills are process skills and functions that we all utilize to navigate our daily life or planning ahead, things like that. And the way that it works is in our brain, we all have the parietal lobe, the prefrontal cortex. We have a bunch of different areas in our brain, and executive functioning skills are living right in the prefrontal cortex. So it's always growing within our brain around, it's starting to fully develop though within your mid-20s. Now that may differ depending on our needs or our diagnoses or our children and where they're at. So everything is always changing within your brain, but the prefrontal cortex is where your executive functioning lives.
So that's, as we think about adolescence, right, and our children, some of our children, I heard there are some of you with adolescent children, young adult children, those skills are still coming, and sometimes they're a bit delayed and it may take longer. And that's just part of the developmental process for each person. So it's very individual. Some people have strengths that show up earlier and challenges that they're just continuing to work on throughout the life. At the end, one of our takeaways for you is a self-assessment that you can use to kind of assess where you are with executive functioning skills. And that we'll quickly show it to you at the end, and then Lydia will send out the PowerPoint and some attachments, resources for you to utilize afterwards. Okay. All right.
And just to go over, the kind of layout of what we're going to do is we're going to share out the different types of executive functioning skills. So Peg Dawson, who is like very well versed, she's done research on executive functioning skills. She's created, or Laura Faith, sorry. She's created a list of 11 different executive functioning skills. She's broken it down. And we're going to look at different strategies to support you and some common areas of improvement or areas of need that we may have or strengths that we may have. So we're going to really break down the different categories within executive functioning.
Right. So the first set, the first set of categories we can think of as preparation. So looking closely at these three, we've kind of just, there are 11 as Sarah said, in order to just, with the organization of this, we just group them together to keep the flow going. So within the first set of three of thinking about preparation, we have planning and prioritizing. So the ability to create a roadmap to each goal, to complete a task, to reach a goal, to complete a task, making decisions about what is important to focus on and what is not. Organization, the ability to create and maintain a system to keep track of information or materials. And working memory, holding information in memory while performing complex tasks. And that really becomes important when you think about the first two. Often we're like, we think to ourselves, I was just going to do something, and then you forget. And I know that happens to me a lot. And as you get older, I think that happens more. That working memory ability kind of starts to decrease. And so we can talk about some strategies for that. It also can decrease when you have a lot going on, when you're just feeling overwhelmed. Right, so we're not going to go through all these. I starred a few that we thought that we would highlight in each category. Sorry, she is tingling here. I apologize. So some common issues that you might be facing day to day. You just have too much to do. You have this huge list of tasks that you want to get done. So some common, as we're talking about these, please chime in the chat things that you're doing or utilizing, or you see something that looks familiar, you're like, "Ooh, that looks great," or "Yeah, I do that and it really works," or "I've tried that and it hasn't worked." We'd love to hear your feedback. So please chime in. Also, if there's other issues that we've just missed or left out, please pass those along as well. We really want to meet you where you are and talk about what you're facing. So some of these, as Sarah said, these are some like simple things, simple strategies that we just sometimes forget about, or it's just not on the top of our mind, and there's like, oh yeah, that thing. So using a list is a very simple yet effective strategy. Often I know for myself, I'm like, I have all these things to do. I'm like, oh, I'll remember. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, what did I have to do? So I find myself emailing myself often. That's how I make lists. Like at bed, before I go to bed, I'll if I know I have a lot to do the next day that I don't want to forget, I'll just send myself an email if I don't have paper handy. Another great thing, now that we all are part of the technological society in 2022, there's a bunch of apps to take advantage of. So we should lean on those. I know some of us are more familiar than others, and that's okay. But keep open to, if someone could please mute, that'd be great. Thank you. So if you're just traveling and you don't know where you're going, taking advantage of Waze or Google Maps is a great thing to do. There's lots of apps, or on your phone, just reminders, or even email is considered an app. You can take advantage of that. So those are just simple things to take advantage of. The unexpected, right? That's a big thing that happens. You have this. So for those of you that feel like you do have a plan for the day and then something happens, right? Yeah, how do you prioritize that? I had this whole plan, and then you get a call from school, or someone's sick, right? Or you realize you didn't get anything for dinner, you have to run to the store. These things come up, it's life. So, just working with it, being flexible, and, just taking deep breaths and working your way through it, right? It's going to pass. It's going to be okay. And we'll talk about some of these things that overlap as we go on to. So prioritizing what to do first, right? That's often, I know some people know they have a lot to do and they just don't know where to get started. Sarah and I see that all the time with students and adults that I work with in my practice. They just don't know where to get started. And that can be tricky. That's a skill. These are all skills that you have to practice. And they're also very nuanced, right? They might be different from time to time. But you have to think to yourself, what do I need to get done today? What's most pressing? And just have a conversation with yourself. Is it that I have to go to the post office? Like, I have to get this in the mail. It's more important than doing laundry today. And I have nothing to wear for tomorrow. Laundry's got to be the first thing I do. And it's really just being honest with yourself. And if laundry is a priority, that's a priority. It's okay. Everything else can wait. Having it written down is going to help you remind you to tackle it the next day or when you have the bandwidth to go there. A big thing that you're going to see in a lot of these our categories is the next thing: flexible versus rigid thinking. Right? That's a really big one. And I think most of you probably have seen that with family members, the difference between flexible and rigid thinking. And you know how difficult it can be to work with someone who isn't very flexible in certain situations. So we have to be self-aware about ourselves. Are we also not very flexible in certain situations? If something comes up and the plan doesn't go, the day doesn't go as planned, do you get stuck on that, or are you able to pivot and move forward? So that's a really big one that you'll see come up time and time again. So what we talk about that flexibility. There's a term. It's called growth mindset. There's a ton of research on that. You can search online and there's a lot of materials. But what it means is that you're open to trying something new, that it doesn't have to be the way you were expecting it to be or you want it to be, that there's opportunity for it to be different. And different is okay. There's research out there that talks about part of the brain is called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is science has shown that your brain, even as an adult, can adapt. So if you think of highways in your brain, pathways. If you always wake up, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, then get into the shower, right? But you want to change that route, and that's the main pathway. That's 695. It's well developed, 8 lanes of traffic going. But you want to maybe develop Route 29. Right? Or make that a little bit bigger. And Route 29 is, getting up, working out, and then doing the rest of your day. Research shows that you can strengthen that highway, Route 29, going right to workout. It's by doing it over and over again. So it's a muscle. So the more you practice it, the more you develop it, the bigger it gets. So after a while, Route 29 going to the gym is just going to get bigger and bigger, and 695 is going to get smaller and smaller. So that's in your favor. So that's a good thing. So take advantage of it. Another thing that I use in my therapy a lot in cognitive behavioral therapy is this idea of how we reframe things, changing. So if you're forgetting something to do something, is it, oh man, I didn't forget, or I forgot it, or I didn't remember, right? Am I forgetting something, or am I trying to, or am I, can I reframe it as, oh, next time I just have to remember to do this. So reframing it as positive. So taking it from the negative and turning into the positive. That is really helpful. Keeping things positive, reframing it from the negative, like, oh man, I forgot this, I'm going to always forget this, or versus, no, I can remember that, I can remember this, I can do this. Having that growth mindset, it really does help with making changes in your life. All right, switch it over to Sarah.
Thank you. So the next category that we're going over is we made into like the focus section, and that includes sustained attention. So paying attention, a lot of us, whether we are on the spectrum or have children on the spectrum, we see it, we feel it, where you're sitting there, you're trying to focus on something that may not be of interest, and you zone out, or your child zones out if you're not watching, their favorite show or talking about their favorite thing. I've had a student in the past who loved fans. Everything about fans. If I wasn't talking about fans in my classroom, I did not have his attention. So that's a really important part of executive functioning, is working on your sustained attention. And like Brad said, this is all about practice. Also response inhibition, which lines up very well with impulsivity. A lot of us may be very reactive to certain situations, behaviors, or things that occur. A good example is like if you're in the classroom, some students might call out before they raise their hand, or we may jump to a conclusion as adults, which happens very often. And then the last one is goal-directed persistence. And that's creating a goal, whether it's for the end of the day, whether it's for in the year, whether it's for an hour. It's having that goal and following through while limiting those distractions around you. And being in 2022, we have a lot of distractions. Being a parent, I have a 1-year-old now. I know there are distractions everywhere when you have a child. So we're going to talk through that, really trying to persist through different scenarios and trying to achieve our goals.
And if anyone has any, I did not go. Oh, there you go. If you have any thoughts about these topics, please throw them in the chat. We're happy to respond as we go. And if any of those, are there things that commonly get in your way, or are there times of the day when you're not focused, etc.? We'd love to hear some examples. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, that's perfect. So some common day-to-day issues that we may all be feeling or that may arise is follow through. We say we're going to do something, we have this thing planned out, something comes up, or we're exhausted at the end of the day when we need to have something accomplished. We get distracted by our cell phones. We might start on our cell phone and be on it for the next hour and kind of forget things around us. So making sure that you're being self-aware, recognizing that within yourself, and maybe setting a timer and being like, hey, I'm going to do this for 20 minutes and maybe I'm going to step over and do this. Or creating a checklist with small tasks. Being able to chunk things is it's not easy to be able to chunk a task, like the chores you need to get done. Like, hey, I need to do dishes. I'm going to just wash the pans really quick. And then maybe in an hour, I'm going to put all my plates in the dishwasher. And then I'm going to put the cups. So really like taking a task that seems tedious and you're exhausted at the end of the day, you might not feel like you have the time, and just breaking it up into little smaller tasks. Another one is getting distracted or having the unexpected. At night when we put our kids to bed, or if we're just sitting, we have something to do. It's hard, but maybe trying to limit that screen time, because I spoke with some of my students about this, and we kind of
sorry.
Just kidding. We kind of like tunnel into it when we get into our screen time. If you have kids, you might see it with like the TikTok craze right now. Kids will be like, I need 5 minutes, or on Roblox, or like us, we need to check Facebook, and we're on it for 5 minutes. That turns into like 45 minutes. So limiting that screen time and utilizing your time wisely. Maybe instead of using that screen time for, Facebook and things like that, you use it for like your self-check, or something that you can focus on, reading a book or different things like that. And then another one that I know we all deal with, especially right now where it's 7:40 in the evening, is exhaustion. we're managing jobs, we're managing children, we might be managing school, we might be managing, doctor's appointments, sporting events, anything that's going on in your life. And you get to the end of the day and you are drained. Your sustained attention, you're unable to focus. Your responses are all becoming a little more reactive as you get a little tired. My husband likes to say that I get hangry in the evening if I need to eat or something like that. So just remember, like, you're a human, and a lot of us give a lot of time to our children or to our family members or to our job, but you all, like, just like hearing all of you speak earlier, like, you all are very invested within the autism community, which is wonderful. And you need to provide yourself with these small rewards. Lydia, I think, shared that you have yoga, you have mom's nights and things like these. And that's really great, is giving yourself that opportunity to be like, hey, I'm tired. I went through this, this, and this. I deserve my opportunity to go do so-and-so. And that's another time to tap out. So he said, remember to tap out. Who is your person? So tonight, maybe just think about it. Like, who are your go-tos? When I was teaching, I had 20 students all on the spectrum. We had big behaviors in a middle school classroom, 3 teachers. And sometimes when you're working with a child, any child, you sometimes need to tap out. You need to find your person. So I would say to the other teacher, like, hey, I've been working with this student. I'm running out of ideas. Let's tap out. They would jump in. I would go for a walk, because we all need our space. And so this part, the exhaustion, just remember to be like self-aware. Just kind of take a step back before you start becoming reactive. Try to take a step back.
Thanks, Sarah. So we had a few comments about chunking. It reminds me of, like, sometimes, as Sarah was talking about, like, the big picture is just too overwhelming. So it's good to break it down. But for some people, it's the opposite. The details is overwhelming and they forget about the big picture. So it's both. It's really important to take a step back and see both the big picture and the details that are in that. So I think if you're a big picture person and get lost in the details, then I think it's important to switch that perspective. If you're a detailed person and can't see the big picture, it's important to be in the airplane 10,000 feet up and looking down and just check and see what you're seeing. That switch in perspective can be really helpful, especially as you're working with other people. Seeing things through their eyes is really important. What else did I want to say? The other really big thing on here that Sarah and I both love, and we say all the time, is yes and. Sarah presented this to her class the other day, and in a class meeting, the student was saying, forgot, and he's like, yes, but. What he really meant was yes and. So the importance of that, it can be both. It doesn't just have to be one thing, right? There can be two truths, two things that are true. It doesn't, when we use but, we're negating what we just said, right? And that often closes off the conversation.
And we're also negating what other people say, which can tend to get a little heated.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's important just to have that mindset of that there's multiple possibilities, multiple perspectives. All right. All right, so I have like too many boxes open here. The next thing we're gonna focus on is self-awareness. So we're calling this group of skills self-awareness. Emotional control, the ability to manage feelings so you can be productive and successful. Metacognition, noticing how you're doing and thinking about how you're thinking. That can be a difficult one. That's kind of more abstract, but it's like that idea of thinking about your brain and those skills. And then flexibility, being able to see many sides of an idea or situation. being able to change and adapt. So we've talked about flexibility in different contexts. This is just another one. Training her to be a therapy dog. We'll see how that works. All right. Is there? I'm hearing some feedback. I'm not sure if that's a microphone. If someone's can mute themselves, please. Thank you. All right. So as we think about self-awareness, here are some day-to-day issues that Sarah and I came up with that we wanted to focus on. One is that idea of losing control, right? You're just having a bad day. There's just too many things. Things didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Someone said something to you that you didn't like. You felt disrespected. You're stuck in traffic. You don't have control of the situation. You're just running late all day. That can feel really overwhelming. But there's things you can do about it. Mindfulness is, a big term out there now, but it works. It's research-based. Meditation / mindfulness is a real thing, and it is a really important strategy to use. There's lots of different ways to do it. 2 examples of apps that are really popular. One is called Calm and one is called Headspace. It just makes it easy. You can download them. They do have some free parts. You can pay for some more extended parts as well. There's also literally a million YouTube videos on the topic too that you can just Google and find. It's finding one that works for you. It doesn't matter who made it. Doesn't matter how cheesy it is. Doesn't matter how long it is. Doesn't matter what, if you tried it and you're like, wow, this really works, that's perfect. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be something that you saw on the Today Show, just something that works for you. So really mindfulness is based on breathing. Right? So it's taking time to focus on your breathing and be more present. So it's about being present and letting things come into your head and move past. So if you're doing mindfulness, if you're focusing on your breath, meditating, and the idea is to clear your mind. Well, it's easier said than done. It's another skill. It's a practice. You have to practice it. So at first you might, all right, I'm doing this. There's nothing in my mind. And then dinner comes into my mind. What am I doing for dinner? So the idea is that it comes in and then you let it out. Like, I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right? All right, I'm doing this. I'm breathing. Nothing's in my mind. Carpool. Oh no. Right? In and out. So that's like the idea is that the things aren't disappearing. There's responsibilities are still there, but you're just letting them out. You're not fixating on them. So that you can stay on control and be present. So it's a wonderful self-care ritual that I highly encourage all of you to take advantage of, and something you can do literally anywhere, in bed, in the car, at the table, right now while you're listening to me. Like it's something that can be done anywhere, and it can be such a great family activity. It's a great role modeling for your children. This idea, right? We didn't highlight this one, but Sarah kind of referenced it. I just want to quickly say, we're all tired. Right? We're all working really long days, staying up too late, waking up too early, being woken up in the middle of the night. If you have an opportunity to take a power nap, we don't want to take really long naps because that can throw our sleep cycle off. But if you can take a 15-20 minute nap and not get into deep sleep, that's perfect. Just helps rejuvenate you to get you going for the second half of the day. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when we take like an hour-long nap, like that's when things can become problematic. I'm not talking about young children. I'm talking about our age, older people. Right. So the idea of feeling overwhelmed when there's just too much going on. We talked about this at the beginning. Overwhelm is not a good place to be. It can lead us to feel really anxious. It can lead us to a panic attack. It can lead to bigger problems. So we want to avoid feeling overwhelmed. So again, the idea of taking care of yourself. So whether it's getting more sleep, talking to someone either in a casual way or finding a therapist, exercise, again, another tons of research and data on the importance of exercise. It doesn't have to be like going to the gym and hitting the weights. It can just be a walk. Walking 30 minutes a day is fine. It is a great form of exercise that does helps the body and does what you need it to do. Can be outside on the treadmill, whatever, anything in between. It's really important to give that goal to, or treat yourself with that. We've talked about growth mindset already, so I'm not going to jump into that. What else?
Brad, really quick.
Yep.
In the comments, I added a link for a virtual calming room. It's great for adults. It's great for kids. It's great for teenagers. It has a lot of different resources. You can use it for 5 minutes. You can use it for an hour. It has things, if your kid's like, a glitter bottle, it has videos where you can watch that and watch the glitter fall. A lot of my students like watching the snow fall. I like the guided meditations a lot, where it like guides you through like being on the beach or something like that. And you sit with your eyes closed for a few minutes. It takes you somewhere else. So there are so many resources available. If anybody has any resources, please share it out in the chat.
There's another one that I is a great one, similar to that. I think it's called This Is Sand, and it's like a sand. It's like one of those things that you can draw with sand. Essentially, the sand falls. You can change its colors. It's pretty cool, and it's free. It's great for the kids and for you. It's a great way to get distracted. All right. So no me time, right? That can lead to a lot of emotional instability when you're just feeling tired, overwhelmed. So that's really important. When you're setting your schedule, it is okay to put in me time during the day. In order to help everyone else, you have to have that time. So you have to be very intentional about it, because it's typically the first thing to go. So if you put it into your schedule, it's more likely to happen. So is me time, it's what you need right then. You can just write me time, and then you can decide what you need. Did you need that 20-minute nap, or did you really want to just sit down and watch TV, or you haven't talked to that friend in a long time, or man, I'm just really in the mood for Starbucks. I want to go get some Starbucks. Whatever it is, it's okay. Just make sure you're doing it, taking care of yourself. So put that in the schedule, and one of our resources is going to help you plan out your day. And then the idea of not being aware of yourself, right? So the idea of self-awareness. Self-awareness is another major strategy, or skill that you have to practice. And some of us are better at it than others, and it's okay. Meet yourself where you are. Are you in tune with what's going on? Are you in tune to your triggers, to your strengths, to your challenges? If that's an area where you feel like you need to work on, there's lots of different ways to do that. One great way is self-reflection, and this the idea of just being in touch with yourself. So maybe through mindfulness, you're giving yourself an opportunity to quiet your brain, to focus on yourself, so that you can kind of check in with yourself to see where you are. It's really important. When I talk to my students and to my patients, I talk about two really important parts of things that you have to learn in life. One is self-awareness, so being honest with yourself about where you are and all those things, strengths, challenges, your triggers, all that stuff, how you come across to others, and then picking yourself up when there's difficult times. So resilience, right? So if you are self-aware and have strong resilience, that's going to get you really far in life. All these other things kind of support that. That's the way I see it. So self-awareness is a really big thing in the work I do. All right, we're doing well here on time. We're going to hit our last category. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Okay, so the final category, we went along with productivity. And so that's the task initiation. Coming to terms with like, oh, I do have to start this up, or planning how you're going to start something and actually following through. Also time management. A lot of us have a lot of things we're juggling, as we spoke about before: work, our families, our me time, and managing that time and staying within deadlines that we may have for work, or your child has soccer practice every like 3 times a week and you have to figure out how to balance that. It's good that this section is at the end, because you're taking all of those components and supporting yourself into time management and productivity. I know you're busy over there with the dog. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry, here we go.
The dog is adorable. So some things to support us with task initiation and time management is chunking things out, as we spoke to before. There's also some information on the 20-minute rule, and that would be working. If any, there's a lot of research based off of this. I don't think we put the Pomodoro.
I think we did in a previous screen, and I flew through it by accident.
Yeah. I think we accidentally did that. Whoops. But it's working for about 20 minutes, giving yourself that time to focus, to give your attention. The Pomodoro timer, it's like the little kitchen apple timer that you can use, or you can use a timer on your phone, whatever it may be, giving yourself that 20 minutes to focus. And research shares that when you are attending to a task for 20 minutes, even though it might be hard to start up and get there, that 20 minutes, you're giving it your all, and it helps with that with that persistence. It helps fight that procrastination and keep you going. And another good thing with that 20 minutes, it's positive. It's shown as like a very healthy way to do things, is work for 20 minutes and then take a pause for 20 minutes. Give yourself those breaks within, and make sure that you're planning things out ahead of time. Another one, motivation, goes along with our exhaustion. We're exhausted, might be tired, and giving yourself those rewards. A lot of us kind of lose that motivation, or we're forgetting about ourselves and we're in autopilot. I know sometimes it's kind of funny where I'm at home, I'm getting ready for work, I'm in my car, and all of a sudden I'm at work and I'm like, how did I get here? I don't know if anybody's ever had that feeling where you're just like, you just completely zone out. And it is, yes, Lydia, exactly. You can't forget about you. You all are such important people. And yes, you may have created these wonderful humans, or you have these amazing jobs or these needed jobs, but you need to put yourself first. And hopefully that can be a motivation, or just like being self-aware and recognizing yourself there. Also, to go along with that is self-advocacy. When you're recognizing these things, you're falling behind, or you are exhausted, or you need that break, advocate for yourself. It's so hard to say, I need help, I need a break, I need to tap out. It is so hard. It's something I still struggle with, especially being new to a school, new to my job, and I don't understand all the things around me. Luckily, my coworkers are wonderful, and they're always there to support me. But it is hard sometimes to go to somebody and be like, I need help with this. Or even when you're at home and I have to go to my husband and be like, I need help. She won't stop, like the baby won't stop crying. Please just help me. Like, tapping out. It's okay to ask for help. It'll make you feel better because you're being self-aware. You're taking a step back. And when you take that step back, you can think about how you're going to do things for the future, because you can't always be putting yourself second, third, fourth, fifth, however it may be. And then another issue that we see a lot is deadlines and time limits. Everything has a deadline. Everything has a time limit to it. Everything is, you need to have this done by this date, or you need to have this turned in, or your child has an assignment that's due tomorrow and you just found out at 8:00 the night before, and that you need to help them with and go buy the poster paper at midnight. Little things like that, like making sure that you communicate with your child, communicate with yourself, making those checklists, throwing it in your phone. I use my phone calendar for everything. I have everything in there. I have my Outlook for my work, and my iPhone one is for me. And I'm always on there. I share my calendar with my husband so we can both be on the same page with things. And it's really helpful. It's healthy. It's a great way for me to reflect. And sometimes I do throw in the calendar like me time for 20 minutes. And my husband's like, thanks. So it's a great way. Like, just make sure that you are, out of all of this, I want you all to just make sure that you are putting yourself out there and, advocating for yourself and whatever you may need.
Thank you, Sarah. I want to just jump back to what she was talking about, the research with the data with the brain. So what's really cool about that is, so there's this part of the brain, I forget what it's called, it's something cortex, that so it's the pain center of your brain. So whenever you're in pain, this is the part of the brain that's like, you're in pain, like, watch out, you're in pain, there's something going on. So that, like, physical pain. And however, they found that when you need to do something you don't want to do and you procrastinate because you don't want to do it, it triggers the same receptor in your brain, that pain center. It's like you're having physical pain too. Oh, I don't want to do my taxes, or I don't want to go to the grocery store, whatever. It's the same receptor, which is kind of crazy. But what the research shows is, as Sarah was saying, if you can get past 20 minutes, so do that activity, that unwanted activity for 20 minutes, when you get past that 20-minute mark, that receptor, that part of the brain calms down. And so that it's no longer painful. And then it actually flips. It turns into something that you want to do because it feels good that you're getting it done. Along the same line, something that's like a free tip for all you list makers out there, keep going and do the best part about list making is crossing out because it data shows that, sorry, my dog is sorry. Data shows that the act of crossing out releases dopamine. So you're getting a free hit of dopamine every time you cross something out of your list. So dopamine is the feel-good chemical in your brain. So take advantage of it. It's a great, it's a free feel-good. So list makers, keep going and cross out. All right.
Something to go along with that I really enjoy doing is like at the end of the day or at the end of my workday, I write down all the things that I've done and I cross them off. I know it sounds silly, but it makes me feel like, hey, like, look at all, like, the end of the day, you might be like, oh my goodness, I feel like I got nothing accomplished or I did nothing, but it shows you like, look at all of these things you did. At no point, I'm sure many of you, at no point during your day are you just, not doing anything that is of importance, whether it's putting yourself first and relaxing and things like even watching a show. I watched a show for 20 minutes, cross it off. That's your me time. So I really like that.
All right. So so our first two, or in the home stretch here, first two takeaways are that self-assessment we talked about. Two researchers, Peg Dawson and Richard Guari, created this self-assessment. You can rank yourself on these questions that will help go back to your executive functioning skills. So we will include this in the information that Lydia sends out to you. Then the second one, Sarah will tell you about.
So this one, it'll print out as your daily plan. It'll be on a regular piece of paper if you print it. It's just kind of like your game plan for the day. You can talk like your top priorities. What are those 4 things or 2 things or 1 thing that you really need to do that day? Your to-do list. You might put like, I need to go to the grocery store. You might put something, I might need to, move my laundry over from the washer to the dryer, things like that. And just making sure that you're being aware and, like Brad said, cross things off on here, put down like your kid has a soccer game or something, because those sometimes things like just creep up throughout the day. And this helps us with our flexibility, and our kids who may need that more rigid plan, who aren't as flexible. This gives them a really good insight. one thing that I really want to do with this is I want to print it out and put it in like a sleeve or laminate it and put it up on my refrigerator every day and just kind of, write through it, whether my daughter has a doctor's appointment or, I'm getting my nails done, or which would be wonderful. Just like little things that we can put on there and just focus that the whole family can look at, and it's a whole family effort, would be really neat as well.
All right, then I think our second to last slide, here's some resources. So 80 or Attitude magazine is all about ADHD, which is really strongly connected to executive functioning skills. Has a ton of great resources, podcasts, webinars, and just things you can read. So I would, it's a great place to go. And then those slides, those executive functioning blurbs that we had came from another great resource, Lori Faith, who's well known in this area. So you can check her website out too. And there's plenty of more out there. We just decided just to highlight 2 of them for you. All right. And now we're on the questions. So I think now, Lydia, we can stop recording and we can